Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave, and today I'm joined by this nerditor.
Nerder dog. You threw me out there.
I know. That's what I live for. That's what I live for. Oh no, I didn't do the social media things. I never tweeted out. The Twitter
I put it
sphere
on
will never
Facebook.
know.
I did it on Facebook.
Yeah, I usually do it right before we go live, and I got to gabbing
Yeah,
about
just do it now.
stuff, you know. But today, today we're going to. I'll tweet why I talk.
Sure.
Today we're going to be talking
I'll do
about
it even.
From the Depths.
Yep.
And it's just like sometimes we just like these really generic uh, terms that can
Mhm.
mean different things. And so, you know what? I'll start it off with you, Doug. What's from the depths mean from you?
So yeah, I also like these just sort of broad generic terms. They usually make you think about things in a strange way. I was thinking about this when we talked about the topic because I just started, or I soft rebooted the campaign run for my brother and his friend, and a friend from my old group who just joined them this past week. Um, and I often, as you have experienced as well, start people in my little coastal town under the premise that they are taking a long sea voyage to this place, and then I use it as a chance like, "Why are you going here?" and things like that, and a couple of random things happen just to get people playing and interacting, and they have nowhere to run because they're in a boat.
Yeah.
But I used one of the things I threw in was the fish food encounter from Out of the Box. Which is I don't want to spoil too much, but it's like you're on the sea, some maritime folklore is ignored, and the sea responds to you. And they like totally talked their way out of this aggressive situation, and wound up making friends these merfolk and getting an invitation to come visit them in the depths, in the Mer Kingdom, the Mer King's kingdom. They didn't go. That was just and it was exciting because we'd been playing a couple sessions and we tried Curse of Strahd and they just weren't really into it, and that's why I was like, okay, well we'll just soft reboot, I'll homebrew it, and that's a lot easier to just go with the flow because it's like you didn't forget to do anything because you're just making it up as you go.
Now,
Um,
that
but they
fish
seem
food
to really enjoy
encounter
it. Yeah,
is that the guest spot from Guy Slander from How to Be a Great GM?
it is indeed. They played the mini game, the dice game. Like the actual players played it as their characters, and yeah, interacted with all the NPCs, and they really were enchanted by like just the little tidbits of lore. And then of course, I had to make up some more because they were asking more about it. I'm like, I don't know. It just says a couple of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just totally enchanted. It was like a completely different vibe. They were like way more into like talking to the NPCs and having that agency of like they seemed to really enjoy that when I was just like, why are you going here, and things like that, and then diffusing it from a combat encounter and getting like an invitation to the depths just was really fun and exciting. So when we were
So,
banding about topics, we had a few other ones, and I was like, how about the depths? And everybody seemed to dig that, so here we are.
so how long was that session?
But two and a half hours.
Okay.
Usually, I've done this many times now. It's usually about an hour of the boat ride because something will happen and they'll just want to interact. It's usually just like an opportunity to like get them thinking in that way, like, oh, I can contribute to this. But players are players, so they'll get more engaged. And then the other hour, people usually just hang around the coastal village and meet NPCs, and stuff, which they seem to enjoy. And then I sort of use that to generate like hooks, like you know maybe something that somebody told them about seemed interesting to them, and it's like, okay, well, that's what they want to do, and then the next time I'll go with that.
That encounter could have been pretty nasty. There's a without spoiling it. There's some pretty tough monsters in there. What level were they?
Third.
Yeah, that would definitely be. There's some tough monsters for the third. I think third level characters in there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have scaled it around and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
But
you are a world class GM, so
I
I do
am, I
not
am.
doubt.
My brother was just texting me how much fun he had playing, and he just thought it was a lot different. He liked talking to more of the NPCs and just like hanging around town and learning about the surroundings and stuff. And they were super interested in like go back to that undersea kingdom, and they just seemed really intrigued by that.
So how much time did they actually spend in the depths in the Undersea Kingdom?
Oh, they didn't go. They just were like they were invited later. At a later time, they just had made friends. So I put, sort of like I said, I used that first session to like, okay, what kind of things would they want to do, in the campaign? Because I rarely have like, there's a big bad and it's going to take you like 10 levels to beat them and stuff. It's like, whatever,
Yeah.
you just sit there, it's a crazy world, man.
Did you have to do anything to keep them from wanting to like go there right now?
No, actually, they really had a lot of fun. Just like they invited the merfolk to like, stay and like have dinner with them on the ship. And, my brother's a bard, so he was, wanting to perform for them and then learn about their customs because he just really leaned into like the traveling story gather. So he just was fascinated, like, learning about what it was like and beneath the sea, and I was just making it all up on
Yeah.
that. But the cool thing that I was thinking about this topic, it's sort of similar to knights, with that, not the chivalrous knights, the when the
Not
sun
the
goes down,
Knight.
in the sense that like it made me start thinking, how we really seemed captivated by like, well, people that live underground or that have dark vision probably aren't scared of the dark. And I was like, well, people that, a lot of these games we play, there's sea elves and civilizations under there, or something like the Aquaman movie, where it's like, well, to them, that's just life is normal. So you can kind of flip things around, for those kind of characters or campaigns. Like,
Yeah.
imagine one that they were all water breathing things, and it's like then the surface would be the fantastical place that they've never seen before.
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking about this earlier. Two things came to mind right away.
Okay.
Um, one, one was like I'm running a game now, a home game,
Mm-hmm.
that I run monthly, and I had like four pitches, and one of them was an undersea campaign, and I actually have that, and I'll kind of pull out my notes and go over that a little bit.
Sure.
Um, but the other thing I was thinking about, and it's gross, is like, where do they go to the bathroom? Like, think about it. You think about fish,
Mm-hmm.
they just go to the bathroom in the ocean where they're swimming around. So it's like, ew.
Maybe they have undersea grottos that are dry.
Maybe
Like a little, like you swim up and yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems very weird. It is.
How would they do a lot of things? Sleep,
There's
eat.
well, I feel like the sleeping stuff isn't that big a deal, because I mean, fish and sea mammals and other creatures they have to sleep anyway. And obviously, you're probably worried about maybe drifting away, right, and getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah,
But I feel like as a culture, a species, you would evolve, and like so your bedding would evolve with that.
sure.
Maybe it's like just this lattice work. It's almost like a hammock, but like it's like a cocoon where you just kind of like wrap yourself in there so you don't drift off.
Don't astronauts sleep like that on, like zero G or whatever? It's just like basically like a hammock on the wall.
Yeah, and they like strap themselves in or something. Like they zip themselves in or something. It's probably something similar to that. I mean, even like otters link their arms together
Mm-hmm.
when they sleep, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that kind of stuff is like I think about less because it's like, oh, they're like super easy to solve and think about, but like I was probably taking a whiz while I was thinking about it. Going, if I was underwater, this would just be going everywhere, like back at me, depending on the current. Maybe that's it. They know how to read the current, right? And
That's
you just
true.
like
Their bathroom is just like a fast moving current.
yeah,
Like a Gulf Stream.
Make it somebody else's problem.
Yeah, it just disperses.
Yeah, we're really hitting the very fine detail and high level of thinking here on Nerdarchy today.
Well, I mean, those are the same kind of questions and things that intrigue people that make you want to play. Not to see like, well, do they go to the bathroom? But it's like, well, when you started thinking about this stuff, clearly just the idea of exploring in the depths is intriguing enough to make you think of that. And like you, I mean, I am really dig the idea of like just I don't know, like campaigns where like everybody's something like that, like they're all water breathers or they're all goblins or they're all the same class. There's a series of books that I wrote a post about called The Secret History of, and there's like various folklore creatures. And the first one I ever got was this one here, mermaids, and it's just about like creatures of the deep and stuff.
Does it talk about
But
how they set their dinner table?
it's got a lot of just little. It's not like really a book. It's just got a lot of like little tidbits and things. And like, there's even like 3D elements that like open up and stuff. So I probably haven't even read all of it. But the premise of the series is that there's this Order of the Golden Quill, who are like people who preserve like relationships with these mythological creatures on Earth. And it's not like a game book or anything like that. But I really just thought like, wow, now that would be a cool campaign of just like you're all mer creatures, water breathing, races who work with this Order of the Golden Quill, and it's got plenty of myths and stuff about the legends of the depths in here that you could plumb for adventures and stuff like that for sure. Merfolk songs,
Oh
artifacts.
yeah, you're gonna start singing for your players.
No, although it
Serenade
does
them.
have it's another one of those little fold out things. It's a little book here.
Oh, nice.
It's got like the lyrics in it and stuff.
Yeah,
But oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like things like that would be interesting in the sense that, like, to me, like, thinking about this topic, I like thinking about some of the mundane things, like,
Mm-hmm.
how do they set a dinner table? What kind of foods, like your food would drift or float away, right? So the way we think about this stuff would have to completely be different for that environment.
Yeah.
Obviously they don't, they're not drinking things, but another things like
Maybe,
too.
I mean, what if you had it like in a sealed conch or something, and you could just like it had like a one-way valve, like a water bottle, where you just like if you
Yeah.
suck at it, or like some sort of bladder that they could just would remain sealed, and if you squeeze it and get the liquid out, like right
But
into your mouth.
they don't have like a biological need for that.
No.
Not that they couldn't evolve it by like interacting with other species.
Right.
And also, how does, I wonder how that stuff kind of interacts with their gills and things like that on a biological level. But yeah, so like, drinking.
Chad is dead tonight, by the way.
Yeah, they're a little quiet. It's all right. You guys can just watch if you want. We don't mind. It is, but it's something to think about. Like, would they use alcohol or no? Or maybe they use. I mean, there's plenty of fish that have toxins, right? That are mild enough.
Yeah.
I mean, dolphins. What do dolphins like to? Dolphins like to torment and pass around pufferfish, so that they like to get high, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, in broader thing, like one of the cool things about these kind of topics and thinking is like it starts making you like look up stuff about that, like just out of general human, like your own Dave, Nerdarchus Dave's human curiosity. Like I don't know, like things like you just said, like, well, dolphins do this. Like, is there other things that creatures do like that? And they start incorporating those into a game, and all of a sudden it's like super engaging and interesting and more memorable. It's not just like fighting the Sahuagin around the corner every time. It's like
I'm gonna have to track down Darcy Ross and interrogate her on this.
Why?
Because she was like a marine biology with a specialty in I think snail or whatever they're called, but whatever the scientific name is for snails, and studying their like shell structure, cellular shell structure.
Are they mollusks of some sort, maybe?
Yeah, but I forget what the exact, like, the terms. Like, she had said it before. And,
yeah, sure.
She's like super smart.
I mean, there's just even sticking with the depths of the oceans. I mean, it's just so vastly different. You could get around the planet quicker. I mean, just swimming or catching those Gulf streams and letting them carry you away. You could go different places. You could go beneath the crust of the earth. And then you also got to think like, all those mundane things are also affected by magical things like a portal to the elemental plane of fire or water that's been, it's like those fissures in the bottom of the ocean depths could lead to like another dimension. And there actually is monsters down there. And, and cities and civilizations.
I mean, that's part of the fun to figure out how all that interacts. And also, like, there's rules for fighting in water if you are, if you're someone that's not from that environment.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, you'd come up with rules for, like, if you're a merfolk, would you
Would you
still,
have different rules for when they're on the surface?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that would be
the
interesting.
game kind of says no, but like it's weird that it doesn't, right? Because really, that's not your natural environment.
Well, then you could just look to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and look up the hazardous environments and see what you could come up with there. I mean, it would be a hazardous environment to you. It's just like you're designed to swim through the depths and
Yeah.
all that.
You want me to go over this pitch I had for our game?
Sure.
All right. So I put together like 4 pitches, and one of them was a sea campaign just because never done one. And I was like, you know what? Maybe people haven't played it and they might be interested.
Okay.
Just called it Under the Sea. Beneath the waves lies civilization and worlds unknown to land dwellers. A massive coral reef has grown around the city of Kayun. So basically, like, that's the pitch. And then like the overview is play aquatic races and other races that can live in aquatic environments. Elf Sea, Genasi Water, Triton, Warforged, Simic Hybrid, Locanth, Grung, Merfolk, or Pitch Me Something. Always throw that in there. The city was founded on the site of their original battle to deny Alhydra, the Prince of Evil Water. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Probably not. Entry into the world of Ulthagania. Kayun is ruled by Triton King Gervalius, the Banisher. The Royal Guard is made up of Triton hosts. The ruling class is made up of merfolk. There is a Senate that operates beneath King Gervalius. Play options: Cult of Hydra on the rise. Who and why? The dome is dying. The dome is made of coral and encompasses a city around and above. Or pitch me something. There's a lot of that in my pitches. It's like, well, here's some ideas. What do you guys kind of think about it?
Yeah, I've basically taken to, and this is what I did like for when it's my turn for our Tuesday night game, and I often do with I've started doing more often. It's like my pitches are just like, here's a setting I think's cool. Do you want to adventure in it? Because it's like I just gave up even plotting that much of just like, here's the the villain or whatever. It's like, I don't know. Players are just gonna do what they're gonna do. So
yeah,
I feel like I feel more confident if I'm prepared, like just knowing, having a better idea like what the setting I'm gonna put in front of the players is. You know what I mean? So like to your point, it's just like, I totally agree with you and I've been in session zeros and stuff where like it just comes up like that Spelljammer game, where you're like, okay, so your guys, it sounds like you want to do this, so we'll just explore that idea instead. It's like it might still be in the underwater sea, but like maybe they're just like, somebody might just think it'd be funny to like, I don't know, I can't think of something, but just throw some offhand comment, and then everybody's like, oh yeah, that sounds neat. Okay, well, we can do that.
I kind of look at it this way with the last couple of games. I like pitch the system, once the system, like we decide a system, and then I'll come up with a couple of different ideas to pitch the group. I mean, the Cypher system game that I'm running worked a little bit different just because I had an idea and I was like, here's the thing. We could do this if you guys are interested. And even in that framework, there's a bunch of different things you guys could have done and plots you could have followed, which we kind of went into in session 0. But had no one been interested in that pitch, I would have put something together formally, and it would have been several pitches, and and that's what I did for the group that we're playing with now, and that happened to be one of them, and I think that's the way to do it too. And really, to me, what that pitch should be is a couple sentences of kind of like get a feel for what the game's going to be about. Maybe a list of things you might do or options that are available to the players, so they have an idea, and then from there from there with that information, I feel like you can go into your session 0 and negotiate the details.
Yeah, and I like whenever I stray from that and start like to be like, oh, I gotta like have a this plan and everything. It always just bites me in the ass too, because it's like, in the same way that when you are a player and you make a character, you're like, well, I really don't know what they're going to be like until I start playing, right? You don't as a DM either, even if everybody's like, oh, that sounds cool. If you're like, oh, there's a necromancer who's, raising an undead army or something, they might not care. I mean, they might think it sounds cool. And then when you're playing, it's like, these people just wouldn't care about that or whatever. So you got to be prepared to roll with that.
To adapt.
Yeah. Like our game, I mean, it's like, I feel like we have tremendous agency, and it's like, sure, we probably, if we were like, came across like badass warriors and we were like, yeah, let's just go mess this woman up and go right for her and everything, we probably could have done that, and you would have came up with something for us to do, but that's not what they did.
We would have figured it out.
But it's still like a part of the campaign. It's still there.
So
I actually have just, I don't want to stray too far from the topic, but like just the big like villain of the whole campaign that the whole time just doesn't seem to work for me anymore. It's like that requires like a lot of buy-in from players before they even play, and from the DM. It's like you might get bored, and then you start feeling like, well, if they stray too far from that, it's like I pretty much set up like the world's in danger and it's up to you to save it. So like when you have like the beach episode, it's like, should we be doing this? Like,
it is tough, and it does require buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's even harder in your traditional D&D game. I think you're better off starting small and kind of working your way out for that. And like, you can add that element later once you've established the players, what they care about, what they like. And then, as the DM, what levers to pull, so that they will go after that big bad. But from the very beginning, it can be hard sometimes. The Cypher System game, I feel like it's working a little bit, but mostly because, one, you guys have given me the buy-in, and two, because like that whole game premise is so over the top that it just kind of makes a little more sense. And I think also moving away from a game that everyone's comfortable with and used to playing also helps a little bit. So like, you've kind of breaking state on everyone. Everything isn't the norm. People are still trying to figure things out. So
we're in the depths.
Yeah, you like your brain doesn't have as many different places to stray, because you're thinking about, well, how does this even work, right? And then so you're not thinking of all these other tangents that go on. I feel like, and the group's just really good at being like, oh, this is what we agreed to do. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, it's just a fun group.
So speaking of the depths, like, so we get a new subclass in Tasha's that's kind of like fits with this pretty good.
Which one? The Fathomless?
Nah, yeah, the Warlock Patron.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. I got to tell you, I started really, like, I think it's a little weird when like the day it came out and people were like, here's my in-depth review. It's like, how could you have an in-depth review? You just got it. You know what I mean? So like for me, just going through like a page at a time is like, that's my in-depth. And I started in the DM tools. So I honestly haven't even looked at the side classes yet, but mostly because I'm familiar with them.
Well, so have you gone through the parlaying with monsters section?
Yeah, that was where I started.
Yeah, like that intrigues me for sure.
I found that part fantastic. I that was the first thing I looked at. I'm like, yeah, this book rocks. It even had like that little hint of 4E like DC in knowledge check to it that we sort of glommed for the bestiary of benevolent monsters.
Yeah.
It got me right away. I was like, this is freaking awesome. I actually believe that there's it says in the disclaimer that there's a magical incantation hidden in this book, and I believe I have discovered it.
Oh.
Yes, it casts a spell on players to pique their curiosity about DMing and DMs to find some world building inspiration in the player stuff.
So did you find anything from the parlaying section to bring back to the depths?
In the parlaying with monsters section?
Yeah.
Not that I recall. I mean, it's pretty short. Don't get me wrong. These aren't like super. These sections aren't in depth much, but they are cool. No, the environmental hazards and the what do you call it? Supernatural regions, magical phenomena. There's a lot of that you could find inspiration for there though.
Yeah, I do like the way they handled the natural hazards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by just giving you like just use the spell effect, and
Yeah,
it's something I feel a lot of people were like, well, that's cheesy. I want the rules. It's like, all right, okay, they can just reprint. They can just reprint that like if it's foggy, then your vision's obscured in a 30-foot radius, and just recopy fog cloud for you if you want.
I mean, we got windstorm, whirlpool, tidal wave. I feel like flooding, maybe. Maybe.
Well, there's also dungeon depths too, falling debris, pyroclastic flows, radiation. Yeah, that's a great thing. Like stuff like this, I particularly like because not only does it like, oh, that's how I could do that, let's say a lava bomb. It might even just inspire you to do that. Period. You might be like, I never thought like swamp gas. I guess it would make dancing light like things, so you could totally just throw that in a game and
well, I just figured I would call out the ones that were useful to the depths.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like there's dungeon depths too.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, like we've been talking about undersea and aquatic, but there's other places.
It's a broad term.
The depths, like you said, from beneath the earth and dungeons, and maybe the depths of space or the void,
which I have explored both in sci-fi games and D&D with Spelljammer many times. Yeah, I mean that's it's cold and dark and.
So in that case, I feel like there's two subclasses that work pretty well.
What's the other one?
You have the sorcerer one, the Aberrant Mind.
Oh yeah, there's creepy things down in the depths. There's entire civilizations. I mean, I always think about like old, Nintendo era RPGs, which they always seem to have that element. Like at some point, you were like in some deep dungeon depth, and there's like a robot. Or like an old computer and stuff. And like, that's, I guess anything that's super remote in your campaign is like, or like real isolated. It's a great time to just throw in weird stuff, like I said, like a computer terminal or like a busted robot or a Spelljammer ship, right? That's where they found the one in my game, just like deep in the layer of Explictica Defilis, submerged in the depths of a large black lake. In her lair was her ship, her viper ship, which I was just telling my brother, I was like, yep, they took off in that thing and just never went back. It just did not give a crap about any of their campaign plot hooks that were going on at the time. And even on a philosophical or metaphorical level, like there's like the depths of your character that you can explore during a campaign.
The depths of your sanity.
Yeah.
Go all Cthulhu.
Or even just your personality, your character's personality or who they are. I mean, I feel like I've gotten to do that in both our Tuesday night games that we've played so far. Like, wow. So
since we don't have a ton of people in here hanging out with us tonight, and I think I was debating on whether or not I was going to show off the surprise, but I guess I will. So I got something in the mail today.
Oh.
From Norse Foundry. And little baggy, right? Let's see. Probably better if I open them up because they're individually wrapped, right? You kind of see what they are. But
gotta get that D20.
But yeah. But let's see. Can we see through the packaging?
I think you can. Yeah, I can. Is that a D10?
That's the 10's D10, right?
Oh wait, do all the dice have the logo on it?
That is a good question. Do all the dice have the logo on it?
Oh, nah, that's awesome, man. I thought it was just the D20.
And you noticed, right? Like some of you have been fortunate, unfortunate, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, to run into us at conventions, right? And we try and carry some swag when we do, and like we'll give you stickers and stuff. And we did give out dice at one point, and Ted had the dice made, and there were D6s with the Nerdarchy logo on them. But forever do I break Ted's stones because the logo is on the one. I'm like, great, Ted. When people think of Nerdarchy, they're just going to hate us
Yeah.
because
That almost happened with these, remember? And I think I had pointed it out. I like to pack myself on the back. I was like, wait. I'm like, that's on the one. And everybody's like, so what? No, maybe you were, but I was like, yeah. And then every time you fail, you're going to think,
yeah.
like, you want to think of us when you win, man.
So on the D4, it's just always on the face.
Are those is that the D4 with the number up or along the side?
Number up. Yeah, number up, and then the logo.
Do you care about that? I know some people are real particular about that.
I don't. I mean,
I don't even think I really ever noticed.
Yeah, because you can tell because when the number is facing up, then the logo is facing the right direction as well.
I guess all my dice,
or maybe not. No, it's only on the twos.
I guess on my dice right now.
Never mind. When you roll a 4, the Nerdarchy is in the wrong position. God damn you!
That's all right.
And then
mostly, it's just that D20. You don't want to be like a crit fail.
And the D20. Let's see. Can we get to the? Focus?
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's on the 20. So these will be going up on the store because.
Oh, Mark Dalrymple got his already last week.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
They'll be going up on the store. Because we actually ordered too many by a bit of a number. The number's not like super high that we reordered, but the cost is because these are aircraft aluminum dice, which you can make dice out of that metal or fly airplanes, whatever. I don't know. But they're really light.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're real light compared to just like your standard metal dice.
Metal dice generally have quite the heft to them.
Are those actually lighter than resin dice? Or pretty comparable?
I think it's comparable. They might even be lighter.
Really? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to do some tests, and I gotta take some pictures so we can put them up on the store. So if folks want to, they'll be able to get them. We're only going to have 100 and so many, 130, 140. I don't remember exactly what the number is off the top of my head. But so we'll have them up there for a limited time. I'll warn you, they're not cheap.
I'm buying. I'm going to treat myself. I want some Nerdarchy dice.
So yeah, but it's cool. Like they look great. They look nice. Norse Foundry has been great for us. They approached us. They're like, hey, we can do this thing for you. There was a little bit of a cheat actually. The reason why they were able to do it so easily is because they already had mocked up dice because we did D&D in the Castle, and they were one of the sponsors of D&D in the Castle. So I think they had done the dice for various influencers that were going to be there.
Oh.
So, and also like our color scheme just so happens to work with one of their dice sets really well. So it was just a matter of adding, adding the logo to it. And they came out sharp. They look good.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got extra into there too, the logo?
Yeah. So they're all etched.
Nice.
So, yeah. Like I said, when I opened it up, I was really surprised. Like, so I had, I had ordered some things. It's that time of year, right? I had ordered some things and but I didn't think like anything should be coming today. Like one package had come already today, and then another one showed up from FedEx. I'm like, what's this? And then I saw the Norse Foundry on there. I was like, oh, great. So, but since we're at the halfway mark, and I don't know, folks, like if you've been hanging out with us for a while, especially with the live stuff, you probably know in December we usually do our biggest giveaway. So we announce it in December, and the stuff goes out in January. So, Doug, if you'd be so kind to bring up the sheet with the stuff on it, I am going to throw up an image so people can see it. Hopefully, check out Ted's photography here.
Well, while he's doing that, this, and it may even grow from now. We're not 100% sure, but there is 7 Deck of Many decks, including the Deck of Many magic items, conditions, NPCs, weapons, and 3 different Deck of Many monsters. There's a set of easy roller dice, metal dice, and the tray with the inner ring, so you can keep your dice in there and have your dice battle it out in the central arena. There's a gargantuan red dragon mini from WizKids. It's huge and really awesome looking, unpainted. There is a set of the Dungeon Craft paper. Paper Dungeons? Are they made of paper? I don't want to mess it up. Or are they plastic? I don't remember. But
they're paper. It is total paper craft.
There's like over 1,000 different like customizable pieces and stuff. They're totally awesome, and they flip back and forth, so you can make a bunch of stuff. And I think there's 6 or 7 game books, including Total Party Kill Handbook, the Lost Lands Borderland Provinces, Swords and Wizardry Complete Rule Book, the No Prep Game Master, and there's some other stuff in the giveaway as well. And like I said, it may even grow more, but that is what is in there right now. And we always say it's at least a minimum MSRP $50, but these year-end ones are closer to $500, I'd say, there or more.
It's pretty hefty.
It's basically like we just a lot of stuff in the pile throughout the year, and then it's like, well, let's thin the herd. Not to sell it short. I mean, it's not, it's all cool stuff, but I mean, we're just like, we got so much stuff.
Do you remember the Crazy Eddie commercials?
Yeah.
That's basically us at the end of the year.
Yeah. Everything has to go. The Total Party Kill Handbook, the Gargantuan Red Dragon Mini.
We might do another like beginning of the year one too, where we do put a bunch of stuff in there as well, just because we got a bunch of stuff. Why not? We like to give away stuff. And it was funny when Ted was going over with me. And then he's like, and then he kind of did it like with a question at the end, and because he knows how I am, and he wanted to make sure it was enough. Because he's like, we can throw some more stuff in there. I'm like, because I'm usually like, he usually has to restrain me. I'm like, give him everything.
There's a lot of stuff. Just those decks alone, that's like hundreds of dollars of stuff, and make your game easier.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. And as always, there's, you can go to our website and download the form to fill out and send us one form per month. Do not send us a bunch of them at a time. We only accept one from you a month. And you can send that to us and we'll enter your name in the giveaway. Or you can become a patron, and at any level, we will automatically enter your name. And that's how we do it. So, I mean, there's definitely people who have like come on board for $1 or $2, and then they win a giveaway, and like literally the value of that giveaway, they could stay a patron for years, and it's kind of been like paid for.
Yeah.
And we just do that as a thank you, and because we appreciate everything you folks do for us. And companies give us a lot of stuff, and we like to turn around and give it back to the fans.
Yeah, we got a lot of gaming stuff.
We do get a lot of gaming stuff. So if we keep
all the cool shit that we want though for ourselves.
If you can get us if you can get us a form before the end of the month, or if you become a patron before the end of the month, then your name will go into the hat, and we will pull it out and see who wins all the stuffs.
Yeah, and Patreon's been really just on fire lately. I feel like, we're doing the monthly maps, the monthly magic item cards, which have been a lot of fun to make and see the art for. So really cool. And then we say the new direction for the rewards, which you can get a little sample of if you sign up for the newsletter right now. If you go follow that.
Or if you're already a patron, there's you can find it in one of the Patreon posts as well for you guys.
The rewards?
The sample.
Oh, yeah. Yes, everything leads back to Patreon. If you're already a Patreon, you're good. You get giveaways, monthly games, updates on all the stuff we're doing, deals, the rewards. It's a pretty dope situation.
Yep. But the patrons kind of help us do what we do. So you can, YouTube revenue alone will not keep the lights on here at Nerdarchy.
So, speaking of, circling back to the depths, before we had talked about the giveaway, we had touched on, just exploring the depths of your character. And that kind of it's just been intriguing my mind because, I really feel like, even newer players or people who you might not think might be inclined to that sort of thing. If you put the breadcrumbs there, they'll do it. Like my brother, I wouldn't, and his friend, who he's described as, it's funny. He was like, I don't know any names, but I'm sure he's not watching. He's like, well, he's just kind of empty inside and devoid of feeling. I'm like, who, the character? He's like, no, him. I'm like, oh, okay. In real life. But so, and just to even put a little trail leading to character development for that person has been like rewarding and stuff. You know, it's
For
like
the player, not the character.
those chances to like think about like what would it be like for this person to be in this situation, and to even tie it to the depths of the sea. I just remember one of the things I threw that character on the way there was, and I said, "Oh, you pass this." Just the captain like narrowly, manages to steer clear of this like deep, dark whirlpool on the ocean, and like it had captivated him. That I said it drew your attention, and I was like, well, what does he see in the depths of this whirlpool? When he looks in, because he has like a mystical eye and stuff. It's a long story. But he's like, oh, he sees like this city on a cliff, and like there's a storm coming and everything, and I like just that alone, I was like, wow, I never thought this guy would have like just got that into it. So that's just went in my notes like, okay, that's gonna come up later.
Yeah. When players give you something like that, you have no choice but to
I
use it.
find you have to just thrust agency upon people. Just sound like, what does he see? What does Jean Baptiste do? Like, or whatever the character is. Or unless you just luck out and have players who you don't need any prompting, which is a GM's dream.
Sometimes I've seen players struggle with that agency when you thrust it on them, though. Like if I think that's more of a problem for veteran players than new players.
To have agency,
having it thrust upon them and like kind of floundering, because a new player.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Well, a new player doesn't know better, right? They don't know that this is how the game works or doesn't work. But if a player is playing for a long time that's never had the DM go, well, what does your character see? What do you think's there? Like, if you've been playing this game for a long time and you've never heard that question, I think it's more of a stumper.
That's when you're playing with a world-class game master.
When you stump them.
Yeah, when you get asked those kind of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often wonder. We obviously interact and think about games like we get into the depths of all the rules and the culture of it and stuff. And I often wonder, like, what are these games like when people don't get to those points? Like, say, like, imagine if you've been playing like your whole life, just like you have, but it was still just like dungeon crawls. Like, is that fun still? I mean, hey man, if it is, that's awesome. It's like, wow. I mean, to just not even like really want to like do the role playing part, not act like talking in voices. Like when I say role playing, I just mean like imagining what it is to be your character, like in that situation, whether you're in a dungeon crawl or, a shopping episode.
Well, if you don't go online and you don't get involved in the online community or watch streams, and you just do dungeon crawls, you like maybe you're old like me and you, and you've been playing with the same group that whole time, right? And you don't go outside of your bubble, like how would you know it's not fun? How would you know like this is how the game's played to you? Like that's all you've done.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not fun. I just it surprises me that you would it's like think about like video games and the evolution of the it's just like when we go back and play these old games, like, boy, this game's play just isn't that much fun anymore. It's not very immersive, or like I don't care about what's going on and stuff. And I think the sweet spot, right, is probably like either a newer player who just actually is reading the book, or I would argue even more so that experienced players actually read the books, like read what it is saying about the game. And like how many people like, yeah, I know what's in the Dungeon Master Guide. Do you? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that would facilitate a lot of different kind of play, and the same in the player's handbook. I mean, there's a reason like the druid starts you're like, what's a druid? And it's like narrative stuff, it's like you're holding a gnarled staff wreathed with holly, summoning the fury of the storm and calling down explosive bolts of lightning. It doesn't say like you cast call lightning and target the orc standing 30 feet away from you. It's like it is it puts you in the place of the person.
Well, I guess the point that I was making is like the person that still plays the game the way they always did, and I feel like that also makes some assumptions. Either they were introduced to the game that way, or they've been playing that way
Yeah.
since early on. Um, I guess the point I was trying to make is like if they don't leave kind of their biosphere of gaming, they're not going to be exposed to as much different ways of play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just playing the game the way they think it's supposed to be played, right? Or you like it wasn't because I really didn't come online and get involved with RPGs until much later.
Yeah, me either. You guys, that was my first exposure.
So
the same way that you're like, oh, people are talking about D&D on YouTube, like you were that to me. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
you didn't think of that.
So that's kind of the point, right? Like, you know, if you're not exposed to these other ideas or other ways of playing, right? I feel like there's less of that. There's less of a feeling that you're missing out on something and you're not exploring other aspects of the game. Mm-hmm. But now say you have a group of people that you play with and you've been playing with, and one of them does go begin poking around and exploring, right? Then they might be like, oh, then you kind of get the bug to like try the game a different way. To what happens if we do more role playing and character development than dungeon crawling and murdering monsters and tactical.
It does seem to appeal to people. Like I said, like with my brother. I mean, I started playing because of my brother, but he hasn't rolled dice in probably like 30 years. Yeah. Like since then, like with the first edition ADD, and his buddy, he's like a video gamer. So they were both probably a similar thing of just like, well, we're gonna go through dungeons and fight monsters and get treasure and stuff. And then, again, it was like, well, I don't know, how do I feel about that? Like, but they're also adults too. Maybe it's just an age thing, when you're young, it's like, like when I was a kid, our characters would be like old people of 20, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And you don't know what it's like to actually have responsibilities, like pay bills and like travel around unchaperoned and stay in crappy hotels and stuff. Like, but when you're an adult, it's like, I know what that's like and it sucks, or it would be weird or funny or whatever.
So I'll grab your questions in a minute there, but I would maybe make the argument that it's not an age thing but a maturity thing, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is because I just remember I think it was Clint Black was telling me, that he had a birthday party. They had a birthday party for his teen daughter, and he was just like kind of there while they're all talking. The daughter and the friends, and they're on their teens, and they're talking about the game, but the conversations they're having are more about our role playing and character development and these things that we were not talking about when we were that age, right? We were just like, we were still getting loot and killing monsters.
I think once in a great while we'd have like a memorable storyline with like, oh yeah, like we had a showdown against that guy in like a rainy slick street and stuff. But that's it. Like literally one time that I remember.
Well, I mean, we kind of always told stories. It's just that we weren't role playing in those stories per se.
Right.
Like you talk about your character in the third person, and there's a storyline, but it doesn't mean that we're kind of like heavily role playing throughout that storyline. Right. Like there might be a reason why this dungeon's here and you're going there, and why you need to stop.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Stop whatever's going on. Like that was technically a story.
Yeah.
We just weren't role playing through that story, I guess.
Yeah, I see. Like even if the DM straight up told you that, like, there's an evil curse on the land and blah blah blah, and you're at the you're like, okay, whatever. It's like that's why we're here.
like think about like a choose your own adventure book, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not role playing, we're just going through the book, but there's a story there.
Yeah.
So mm-hmm. I always died.
Sure.
So Art of Alan Chiders. What's up, guys? We're just doing our thing, talking Monday night stuff. Was D&D your first RPG? I think I usually say it was, but I don't think it was. Like, it was the first one I was exposed to, but I don't think it was the first one I rolled dice for.
What was it, Gangbusters?
No, it was Gamma World.
I mean, yeah, I think you and I are both around. I mean, I know we're both around the same age. Where it's like back then, it was probably a TSR product of some.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
TSR,
GameBusters,
they were the only
Star
ones making those.
Frontiers, D&D, Gamma World, like all of
Yeah.
those were TSR, and those were all the ones I played when I was a kid. The D&D was the first for me.
But it
My
was like
brother,
one session. Like we made a character, we played. I don't remember anything about it. I was super young.
oh really?
Yeah, like the only thing I remember was my younger brother was there, and he's 2 years younger than me. And I feel like I was like a tween, right? 10, 8, somewhere around
Yeah.
there. And I just remember he wanted to be a hawk person with hawk wings, right? and then he got some defect that made him like 20 feet tall.
Oh,
right.
Gamma World.
Yeah, some mutation that he got what he wanted, but it also got something that he didn't want, which was like to be super big, which sounds kind of cool until you want to like do things that the rest of the party's done. So like literally that is like the only thing I remember. But before going to play that game, the same neighbor that kind of got me involved in that game had also showed me the red box, and I just remember sitting in my living room with him and taking all the pieces out and showing them to me and telling me what it was, and then it would be several years later before I actually started playing AD&D, like first edition.
I would watch sit around while my brother played the red box with his friends first, and then first edition AD&D. So I don't remember which I played for. I think we just sort of like had a bunch of the like both that we had like the red box and the AD&D player's handbook and stuff, and we're just like whatever. They all say D&D on them, so we just sort of just like played the game or whatever. But I totally remember very fine memories of playing both the West End Star Wars and Vampire the Masquerade in the 90s and all those White Wolf games, except Mage. I never liked that. I liked Vampire. I liked Wraith. Changeling was my favorite, and Werewolf was pretty cool. But that West End Star Wars game was freaking awesome. I love that game with the D6 system. I had a lot of fun with that.
I never actually played that one, and I don't know if I even played Vampire. Like we did a World of Darkness game.
Oh yeah, where everybody was just it was just the World of Darkness. So that's like
and the GM just let us use all the different books, and it was a mess.
Let me guess, the Mage seemed OP.
I don't know. I was playing a mage, so
oh, really?
I was playing the mage that they're basically like Shaolin monks, like supernatural.
Man, yeah, hey man, those games were fun. I encourage people to play all games, but yeah, those were both super fun. But D&D, I'm just a fanboy, man. I'll admit it. I love D&D. I'm out there on the front line saying how cool I think Tasha's is and everything else in the game and whatever else.
So, Art of Alan Chowders mentions I was reading Drizzt novels in Army Barracks before I knew what D&D was. Yeah.
Wow, that had to be cool to discover what it was and to be like, oh no shit, I could do that. Like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I feel like there's a lot of gamers in the military. And and obviously they're going to bring it with them. And one of the things you kind of have a lot of time of in the military, is my understanding, is once you get to do whatever you're doing, is you have a lot of time. So someone's told me like they've been playing games, but they were technically working, but there's nothing to do until there's something to do. So
right, yeah, just like it's just said, you're in the barracks or whatever.
Yeah.
And bombs are going off. I've often wondered and sometimes found like, people that have been in like combat situations too, that they're fun to play with too, because like I always think like people that like love the combat of it, which is fun, it's a fun part of the game. But I always think like even like warriors in real life don't want to get in life-threatening situations like one right after the other. It's like, well, okay, let's just dive into this firefight. I mean,
Yeah, I guess.
It's like interesting to play a fighter, because it's like, well, I'm good at fighting doesn't mean I want to get in peril constantly.
I think there are people like that, but they're mostly sociopaths, right? They're not normal by any means.
Hey, do you
It's not
know
a
this
good
is
thing.
totally off topic and out of left field, but do you know what a Kilmalus is? A Kilmaulus? It's a creature from D&D.
Oh, they're like little faith things that look like they got the little like anteater faces.
Yeah, yeah.
No, have
I
no
don't know what
idea.
made me think of it, but somebody I saw it online. They were saying they wanted to do like a D&D campaign, sort of like inspired by the Mandalorian. So of course I was like, here's a bunch of links to posts I wrote about that. But they were like, I don't know what creature should represent the child. And I was like, I want to kill Melissa. That'd be cool because like people were like, oh, it could be like an imp. And I was like, oh, just make it like a little thing that's like, if you're good to it, then you're gonna have a lucky day. If not, it's probably not gonna be that good.
Oh yeah, they.
If you're nice to them and give them food and stuff, they like give you like the blessing of whatever. It's just I think you have like more easy travel and your rest is more restful. But if you don't, they'll like you look
Then
like
they
get
force choke you.
yeah, and eat all your and they commit genocide on your people.
Mm.
Eat all your Triton eggs.
Although I don't feel like you have to be a jerk to them for that to happen. They're just gonna do that. They just like Triton eggs. I don't know.
Yep, yep. Or grung eggs.
Yeah. So I don't know, folks. If you follow along and read the newsletter, there's a link in this. Oh no, there's not a link in this description. There should be probably. But if you go over to nerdarchy.com or our regular videos, there are links to the newsletter where we're going to then kind of we'll then like each of us put our own spin on this topic.
Yeah, those have been a lot of fun lately too. We get like new magic items and out of those, and feats and supernatural environment regions of our own, or just like thoughts and ideas for campaigns. Oh man, this is again tangent, but it just reminded me. So I remember long ago when we were in a meeting and we were talking about Liamon's secret chest and how it like shunts it off to the astral plane, and we are like, what if there was like people there that like started protesting that because you were polluting the astral plane with all these secret chests.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
read a post about just like more about that idea of like these people like invade the material plane and like with whatever. And this was a long time ago. Somebody just like came across it the other day and had like responded to the initial like just a generic tweet that had gone out in the thing. Like, this sounds so much fun. I'd totally forgotten about that. So it was just neat to see like, wow, how did they come across that? It's such like an obscure thing, but it was so much fun talking about it in that meeting.
I had a lot of fun with the last newsletter, just because like it inspired me to go in a weird direction, and then we ended up shooting a video on it. So
the Knights, yeah,
Knights.
That was a real nice. In the same way that this one was, where it's just like, well, from people's point of view that live in those environments, it's not weird. Like the things that us, Dave and Doug, humans, Dave and Doug know is the weird thing, and which would probably come up a lot in a D&D game. Like I said, like there's a lot of creatures and things that like breathe underwater and see in the dark and whatever, live at night, live in cold places, live in environments that are inhospitable to normal humans.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like a couple of my pitches were kind of limiting in compared to normal D&D campaigns. But even within those limits, there was still like a wide breadth of choices.
Oh, sure.
Like everyone could play something and be something different. And
Warforge, I don't know if you mentioned that. I looked up my Secret History of Merfolk thing, but they can breathe underwater too. So,
well, they don't exactly breathe underwater.
Or they don't need to. They don't need to breathe.
Yeah. So Warforged are a little trickier because they don't have a swim speed.
Yeah, I just meant they technically the Shadow Sorcerer doesn't need to breathe. Also, I think, or something. I mean, there's a few subclasses.
Yeah, well, so like there's two considerations when running an underwater campaign.
Okay.
From the player standpoint, is you want to be able to breathe underwater or not need to breathe. Like technically, you could be an air genasi, right? But you're kind of boned if someone ever makes you not hold your breath for whatever reason.
Like if you get punched in the gut.
Yeah, it knocks you out. You get knocked unconscious. You'd start breathing and drowning because they can hold their breath indefinitely.
Right.
But yeah, so you need to either breathe, not breathe or breathe underwater. And a swim speed is actually pretty important because you're at like disadvantage for a lot of things when you do not have a swim speed.
Mhm.
Also, you can probably hang up that fire mage.
Yeah.
Probably not going to be very useful.
Mhm.
But I wonder if elemental infinity would bypass
Oh, yeah, I don't
that
know. But
because being underwater.
following those few guidelines, so like if everybody had a swim speed and they could breathe underwater, I don't think maybe like with the fire and stuff. But other than that, I would just probably run it like, you know, any other campaign for the most part. I mean, in the sense of like, I mean, it's still a huge world to explore that probably has ruins and secret places and dangerous creatures and treasures, and you know what I mean. It wouldn't be like limiting environmentally. Like I wouldn't go
No,
too deep,
no.
but just kind of again lay out those ground rules. Like like a longbow is probably not going to be a good choice of weapon down here and stuff.
Well, so first of all, elemental depth actually does work.
Okay.
So it would bypass the fact that being underwater gives you resistance to fire.
Oh.
So you could do a fire mage, which would be kind of cool, like as a player or even as a foe, where the players are like, "Why is this guy's fire so hot?" Because usually it's something you're not quite as concerned about. Or
Like Alan Childers just says, like, I did an underwater campaign recently, and I was like, here, magic item and sub from Waterdeep. It's like you could just hand wave it to. It's like, well, I
yeah,
can, you could just tell the players like, you drowning to death is not really going to be a main consideration. So we're just going to play it like that. Like you're going to have a sub, or you'll have like bracers of water breathing or whatever.
well,
And it's like,
that
sure,
would
I
be
mean, if they
interesting
break or get
too.
stolen, they're dangerous. You're in danger, but
That
those would
feels
be
more
like,
like from the perspective of like being surface dwellers and
right,
going
right.
underwater and adventuring, which that'd be cool. That's like a totally different thing. But from the playing, like, oh, this is where you're from, and this is the normal for you. As a GM and players too, it'd be like you have to get used to working in 3 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
Dungeons become way more interesting in the sense that like up, down, or get involved as well. Normally it's like, oh, this is a challenge for a player.
It would kind of be like everybody has flight.
Yeah.
Like even if there was like an underwater castle, it's like I'll just swim up to the top floor or whatever.
Oh man, now I'm just imagining an angry GM being mad because the first level characters, it's like they have flight.
It
Not
is
my
a
game.
consideration.
But it is.
I was going to use the yeah, what's that kind of shell game? It was on my just bullet points for my Sunday game, and like one of the characters is an Aarakocra. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, well, I might have to adapt that one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just fly up to the top. That's the one with the interlocking. You have to make that ladder.
Mm-hmm. I know all too well. So we are 4 minutes past, so it's that time. But we're going to be back here tomorrow night, and we'll be playing some Cypher System in a science fantasy post-apocalyptic world loosely based on Thundar the Barbarian meets Flash Gordon with a little touch of 2020 dashed in there for a little extra fun. So until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.